Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to Accessibility Talks, where every month we meet virtually and talk about all things accessibility, focusing on website usability. Each month, we invite a speaker to present an accessibility topic, and afterward, we invite the community to ask questions and participate in discussion. So if you have a question for our speaker or for anyone on the channel, please post it in the Zoom chat window or with the hashtag A11yTalks in Twitter. That's Ally Talks. I'm today's host, Amy June. I'm the Open Source Community Ambassador for Canopy Studios. And our speaker today is Adrián Bolonio, and I might have messed that up. He's a front-end developer and web team lead. In this month's talk, which is Testing Web Accessibility, Adrián will speak a bit about automated accessibility tests and how they can free up our QA team from manual testing every part of the application. But they cannot do that automatically and magically to make our site accessible. So he's going to show us some testing tools, libraries, and techniques to increase the accessibility test coverage of our code. And he's going to do that by using a simple React application. So that'll be great. So Adrián, I wanted to ask you a little bit about yourself. You know, we had some discourse in email, and you mentioned that you had a love for traveling and that you recently went to Italy with your girlfriend. Do you want to share with folks the exciting news that happened in Italy?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me here, first of all. Yeah, we've been in Italy for a couple of weeks, and then, yeah, we're engaged now. So all happy news.
That's exciting.
But yes, yeah, I love traveling. Actually, that's you're right. Every time that money allows it and time allows it, then I'm traveling.
Right. Where is your next trip?
My next trip is to Colombia. I'm gonna be a speaker in the JavaScript conference in Colombia, and so I'm gonna spend a week in Medellin. So it's gonna be very excited.
Fun. And when you get married, did you guys pick a location? Are you going to travel for the wedding?
Not yet. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen next year. Yeah, so it's a tough decision.
Oh, fun. Okay, so are you ready to get started?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Take it away.
Yes. So it's all good. You see the presentation?
Yep.
Perfect. So yes, I would love to talk about testing web accessibility today. So let's start. Again, my name is Adrián or Adrián Bolonio. I'm from Madrid. I'm from Spain. As Amy June said, I'm the web team lead of the front-end developers in my company and a front-end developer of that team. And you can find me under my surname in Twitter, Instagram, GitHub, everywhere. So let's talk about web accessibility. In the real world, we can see here 3 cases that is obvious that are not implemented and built correct to the people that are targeted to. So probably because they were built by not disabled people, or maybe because they didn't thought to put in their shoes. But it is very clear that those 3 cases are wrongly done. Another case that I can show you in the real world, from the wheelchair user perspective. This is completely wrong. And it's clear that this was not tested from the end user perspective. No one thought about sitting down and clicking the button and opening the door and see that there are stairs. So why is this so clear in the real world, but not in the online world? So let's see how can we translate this reality to the online world. Because it's not so obvious and not clear when we not visually impaired people, when we see a website that is not accessible. So let's make it an example. If you are in an online e-commerce in an online shop, and you call the IT support. you want to know your latest purchases. So typical answer from the help desk would be, you need to click in the button in the top right corner. Or you want to change your password. So they can say, you need to click in the button with the engine icon. The problem here is that people with visually impaired disabilities or blind people will not see anything. There's no such as top right corner. There's no such as engine icon. So we need to get this reality when we develop applications. Why so important web accessibility? If we look at the numbers, last year we were around 7.6 billion people in the world. The problem comes because more than 1 billion people live with some form of visual impairment, from light to 100%, which would be blind people. So we need to make our web accessible for as much users as possible. So my team and I, as I said, we are working in a platform that allows people to sell second-hand goods. So we are the second largest Austrian website in traffic. That means we need to reach these people, and we need to make our website accessible for all these people. So we are not going to, or I'm not going to talk about developing web accessibility today. I gave a talk some time ago about developing web accessibility. It's called How Does Your Website Sound Like? And anyone can watch it. But today I want to focus in testing web accessibility. So as you said in the introduction, automate tests can free up your QA team for manual testing every single part of your application, but they cannot automatically make it accessible magically. So we need to think about these automate accessibility tests as one step of a larger testing process. So we cannot forget about the fact that only 20 to 50% of all accessibility issues can be automatically detected. So we cannot skip this manual part. So as I said, we've been using some libraries, some tools that I would like to show you. Introduction about the tools. So I will start talking about testing the code. So I create a very, very small React application with 3 tiny components. One is a button, one is a fake button, which is an anchor link, and one is an image. And I put a bunch of errors in the HTML. So the first one is React Axe, which is built by Deque, and is probably one of the tools that I use more. So it's installed as a developer dependency in your React application, and you can call it passing the React DOM object. Why so? Because it scans your code and it gives you in the Chrome DevTool console, in my case I'm using Chrome, all the issues that your website has. The good thing is the issues are grouped, and it's grouped as well by severity level. So you can have from minor, which could be the warnings, to critical, which is the things that you need to tackle first. So again, you can automatically see while you are developing in the browser what issues do you have. Another tool that we use and we have in our code guidelines is the ESLint plugin for accessibility for JSX, which is the React language. You need to configure the ESLint RC.json file, and you can configure the rules that you want to use. As we see in the line 12, we extend the recommended rules by the accessibility, all the accessibility rules. As well, we can extend the restricted one. So instead of warnings, you will see errors. So your application will not be able to build. And in the code, you can see what errors you're having, and basically hovering the the line that you have the error. As well, when you run the application, you can see these issues as well in the terminal. So again, very, very helpful while you are coding. You don't even need to pass any test. You will see them automatically. One of my favorites, because we tend, so it's JEST-X, because we tend to forget that writing tests is part of the development process. It's not a post-development process, it's a part of the development process. So you can write unit tests with JEST, and with this library, JEST-X, as well, is a developer dependency. You can render into a string the whole application, and you can check if the application have violations. So again, if you pass the test in the terminal, you will see pretty much the same issues that you will see in the Chrome tools in the automate tests. This is very helpful in your testing pipeline. If you have end-to-end tests with Selenium, or you can have unit tests, you will see how the application will not build or will not be deployed to production if the tests are not passed. And with the results, you can build reports to your product team or to your development team. So this, we've seen how to test in the code. So let's see how can we test in the DOM structure, mainly from the terminal. So again, Axe library has an CLI in the terminal. So you need to install it globally to be able to use it. And you can run the command in the terminal, followed by the URL of the page you wish to test. As well, you can pass localhost, so you can test in your local environment. Or you can use the flags, the rule flags, so you can test only one rule in particular. In the second example, I'm testing only the color contrast. So if I want to test if it's compliant with the AA or the AAA. The good thing for this library is that it gives you the issue, the violation, it gives you why and where, and it gives you a link to the DEQUE University, so you can read more about how to fix this issue. There's another library which is very similar to Axe, which is A11y, and it basically does the same. So you have to install it globally as an npm package, and you can run it in your terminal, followed by the URL of the page you wish to test. Again, you can test against localhost, and you will see all the issues listed. What are the issues? Where are the issues? So it will show you the HTML where the issue was found, and a bit of information. For me, one interesting thing about this library is that it has a CI so you can use it in the code. So you will have to create a PA11yCI.json file, and you can pack the URLs that you want to test. You don't need to test one by one. You can generate a full report. So in the URLs, you can use it plain. You can use it as a config, so you can see timeout, or you can screen capture. So you will, at the end of the test, you will see the results, and you will have a screenshot of the page, so you can test the visual inconsistency as well. And for me, again, one of the interesting things about this one are the actions. So not only you can load the page and see if the accessibility tests are passed, but you can perform actions. So in the third case, I'm calling the Drupal groups website, and I'm waiting for the element with the class menu3473, which I expect the element I know is the events link to be visible. Then I take a capture. I click the element and I take another capture. So at the end, I will have a screenshot of both home sites. And Google provides a library which can be used from the DevTools as well. So you can run this directly from the browser. But in this case, I'm running this from the terminal. So I will show you the video so you can see how it runs. So Lighthouse ran a Chrome instance, and it will start performing tests, not only accessibility, but performance and SEO. Because as my experience says, SEO, so accessibility and performance, both has a very huge impact in SEO for Google. So at the end of the test, you will see all the tests that have been passed, and it will generate a report. Inside the report, you will have the accessibility tab, and you can see the score that you have, and again, some information about the issues, where and how to fix them. So this is some tools that you can use to test the DOM structure. And as well, you can test in the browser. And now we are going out of the automate tester to go to the manual testing, because all these tests that I've been talking about can be automated in scripts or in the pipeline of the building and deploying. So in a continuous delivery and continuous deployment system. But in this case, I'm going to talk a bit about manual testing in the browser. So I just selected three plugins that I think I use quite often. So this is the small React application that I created, and I'm going to show you first React acts, as we said. So you can see the elements, and they are highlighted, so you can see where are we. Then the first one is acts. So if you click in analyze, you will see again the issues that you have, some information about the issue, where is the issue found, and the good thing is how to solve it. And if you want to learn more, again, there's a link to the TechWay University. The second one is the ARC toolkit. So if you run test, then you can see group by test. And for example, the red column is errors and the yellow columns are warnings. And for example, let's take ARIA usage. The good thing of this library is that they are highlighted in the code, also in the view, and you can highlight where you are inspecting. So in this case, there is a fake button that has a role, and it said invalid ARIA role specified. And if you click, you will directly go to the element in the HTML inspector. Other thing that the Chrome DevTool has is a new accessibility panel, where you can see the whole accessibility tree, which is the ARIA tree. So you can see what the screen readers will read when the element will be focused. I think I know Sergey did a talk about this a couple of months ago. Very interesting. So rewatch this talk because it's really interesting. And some other manual testing that I tend to do is a plugin, a Chrome extension called No Coffee, which is a vision simulator. So you can simulate what can happen when a person has a kind of blurry vision. So this is how your website will appear for them. Or someone with protanopia. In this case, the colors are different. So it's very interesting how to simulate the disability of someone, so you can develop this application in a better way. So yeah, those are 3 extensions that you can use to test your application in the browser. Again, manual testing. The small React application that I create, again, is just a test to use these tools. You can find it in the repository in GitHub in my profile. And I want to leave with a sentence that I found and I really, really like it, which is, it says, it's not just about disabled users being able to access your website. It's about everyone being able to access your website. So when we develop with web accessibility in mind, we don't develop for disabled people. We develop for everyone. So we need to think about this. And that's it.
Okay, thanks, Adrian. Do you want to put us on, stop sharing your screen? There we go. So are there any questions from anyone on the call today? I know that there was a question from Andrew. He was curious to know which JSX ally errors you extend beyond the default recommended ones.
Yes. So the errors that I'm used for this example, and again, you can see it in the repository, are alt tests, and you can say which elements you are looking for alternate tests. In this case, I use image, object, area, and inputs with the type image. No interactive tab index, so I want to avoid tab indexes and different numbers, so not interactive. So in a div or in a label. No static element interaction, so I don't want to, I'm looking not to have on click, on mouse down, on mouse up, on key press, on key down, and on key up in a non-static element. So only the elements that could have on click should have on click. So no divs that look like a button that you can click on them. No redundant roles. Label has associated control. Again, labels with an input, so no inputs without labels. Interactive support focus. Again, focusable elements should only be button, checkbox, link, search box, switch, text box, etc., etc. The anchor link is valid, and this is very interesting because you can specify here the components you're looking for. So if you remember at the beginning, I create a tiny component called fake button, which is an anchor link. So in this case, I'm extending anchor is valid, and I'm passing the component fake button. So every time that in React I'm using this fake button, the LinkedIn will say, look, this is not a valid anchor. And I can look for special links, so href left and href right. And no href, obviously. Anchor has content. So for example, the most typical example for this is you have the logo of your website and it's wrapped into an anchor in the image, or you have an anchor with nothing inside. So every anchor should have a content. I'm looking for language, area roles. So, and heading has content. So I'm looking for as well heading, so H1, H2, that has content, no empty H2s because of weird things. You want to use it as separators or whatever things that you should not do. That's the extensions that I'm doing. But again, if you want to take a look of the repository, you can find everything, specify the levels. So 2, 1, it depends on critical, minor, whatever you want to treat them.
Perfect. So Sergey has a question for you. He wanted to know if you use Cypress.js for accessibility testing, and if you have, what do you think of it?
Yeah, no, we don't. We don't use Cypress. We use React testing library from Ken R, as he said. No, we don't use Cypress. We evaluated to use Cypress at the beginning. I mean, we use plain Jest, and now we are starting to use React testing library. if React used to have a React -i11, but it was deprecated towards React Axe. So well done, Dekwe, because hopefully it will be included in further versions of React.
What do you do when the different tools give you different reports or conflicting reports?
Sorry, say again?
What do you do when different tools give you different reports or conflicting results?
Okay, it depends on, first, I will check how each library is configured. So for example, maybe in the LinkedIn that we were talking before, I was looking for anchor not valid in my component, which is the fake button. But if I don't specify that because I'm specifying explicitly, this component is wrong. But React Axe in the browser will not say anything because I'm not specifying to this library, hey, this component is not a valid anchor. So for other libraries will be a valid anchor. So first you need to see the configuration of each one. If you have a conflicting one, I normally go to the W3C specification and read about like, okay, what is the best practice? And why is this not correct in this library and why is this correct in this library? Or what is the levels? Maybe one is a warning and one is a error. I normally go directly to the specification.
So Andrew has a couple of questions in the chat window. The first one he asked was, do you normally test the entire application for violations in one assertion as opposed to testing specific components or screens?
We do two, we do both. So the test that you've seen is render the whole thing and pass it through the testing library. It's the YEST Axe. And we test component by component. But the problem with component by component is that if you have a component that receives an alternate test for an image as a prop, and the prop is not passed, you will need to have several tests for this. With the application, you just know what is there, unless it's obviously coming from the database or an API. The other issue for us is that we are a server-side application base, so we use Next.js. Sometimes we have data rendered in the server that are not coming in the client. So sometimes the data is not coming. So sometimes we have components that we cannot test, unfortunately.
Okay, and then his second question in the chat was, do you ever find there are violations that fail the test suite that you need to write, that you want to skip or ignore? And is that possible on a one-off basis, or do you always need to make code changes to address accessibility test failures? And then following that up with, how do you account for testing the rendered app in different states?
Okay, for the first question, yes, there's violations that fail the test suite that we need to ignore sometimes, because again, there's something that I always say to my team, and not only the team that I develop with, but product team in general, is that we need to be the most accessible as we can. It's very difficult to be 100% accessible, unfortunately, but I can tell you an example because it happened today. We have an image gallery, and some of the thumbnails are not images, are background images. The good thing is that all the thumbnails are in the gallery, so all the images have their correct alternate test. So if I look for images, this thumbnail will not appear in my test. So it's not that they failed the test, it's literally they are not found. So for me, it's a failure, but I just keep it because in favor of the other images. And sometimes we have to ignore them. The better example for us is that our logo, the colors of our logo are not AAA compliant. So it's like our corporate logo, our corporate colors, it's just blue and white. It's something that I cannot change because the board will kill me if I change the logo. but this is something that we need to ignore. How do you account for testing the render app in different states? Mocking. We normally mock the data that we pass to the tests. So we mock some 500 errors, we mock some success, we mock errors, and we test as much as we can. It's obvious that sometimes we miss some stuff, but this is, I guess, that's obvious.
And Carrie asked in the chat if what you thought of, and I'm going to destroy this last name, Manuel Maciuwicz's article on building the most inaccessible site possible with the perfect lighthouse score. Did you read that?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Actually, he lives in Vienna, and we are in the process of founding the Accessibility Club Vienna together. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, know all the libraries, the tools that we are seeing, they are not perfect. Manuel show us perfectly how to score 100% with the worst website possible. But yeah, if you find the best thing they can do, or the best thing you can do, maybe it's report it and try to make this tool better. So yeah, we need to use the tools knowing that it could happen. And again, as I said in my slide, automate test is just one part of the whole testing process. So manual test is very important as well. And I think Manuel said it in a talk, and Sergey as well. The best testing tool that you can do is close your eyes and try to use your website with a screen reader. If you're able to perform an end-to-end action, you can log in, you can purchase, you can whatever product you're selling or service, then you're good.
Yeah, there's definitely limitations to automated testing. So this is like a really broad question, but do you find that there's one tool that's better than another for finding certain issues?
Not better, but different situations. So for example, I use React Axe in the browser instead of the Axe Chrome plugin, because I normally have the console log open. So for me, it's not that one is, which is, don't get me wrong, both are developed by the same company, but one is better in one situation. For example, Jest, I use testing in the terminal instead of using the CLIs or the CI. So I prefer to write my own tests than to run A11y or Axe directly in the terminal. Both are gonna most likely are gonna give me the same result. But yeah, I can run test continuously, and the other one is a one-time thing. So yeah, it's again not better than the other one, but better situations.
Carrie asked, well, she stated, we captured a lot of the links, but do you have any other resources you want to recommend to the group?
Yes, definitely. I mean, A11 project, Kari, your blog, literally, Scott O'Hara Twitter account, any accessibility guru, let's say, in Twitter, follow them. They are continuously sharing blog posts and tools to use in our development process. You mentioned Manuel Matuszewicz. His blog is a huge inspiration as well. He has a very cool section, which is Today I Learn till section, and every day he posted a new thing. So my biggest resource is Twitter. Follow probably the hashtag A11y, and you will find you will find a lot.
Yeah, it's social media is really great for targeting what you want to learn with the hashtag. Does anybody else on the call have any questions or discussion points for Adrian? Opening it up for people. No. Nothing? Okay. So I wanted to ask you something about your music playlist, Adrian.
Okay.
You said you like jazz, but like, what kind of jazz like pumps you up when you're doing the accessibility testing? Like what like really gets you going? Like what really helps you get into that groove? Because sometimes, you know, I hate to say this, the testing can be a little bit arduous and tedious, you know. So what do you recommend in your headphones?
And I just not a specific artist or I mean probably it's more into the funk part. So Maceo Parker is probably my favorite funk artist, but any jazz music is very relaxing to work with.
Jazz.
Jazz and funk, yeah.
I am not quite there in the jazz world, you know. I like the funky side of jazz, but some of the other stuff, I either I'm not cultured enough or I haven't been exposed to the right artists to really have a deep sense of, you know, love for the genre yet. But that's okay. I can get there. Okay, I just want to give everyone else one more opportunity for questions or discussion points. There's a big group today, so I'm just hoping someone has something to say. It might be microphone phobia.
Go on, Andrew.
You're welcome to turn your microphone on too, Andrew, if you want to do it that way.
Yeah, I can do that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is easier. So I've got lots of test suite questions. I'm in the middle of trying to set up something for my team as full featured as this. So when your tests are failing that you choose to ignore, does that mean your test suite is literally failing? Because a lot of test suites are gatekeepers for the CI to build. So how do you deal with that, or how does that work?
Yes, absolutely. This is something that you need to talk with your team, of course. So in our team, again, is what you just said. Our tests need to pass to continue building. So we have every pull request that we make to the code, we pass the test, and the build breaks. We need to look where is this the where it broke. Sorry. So sometimes you need to analyze this test. We normally have our UX designer sitting with us, and we need to talk. Is this really a usability test failure? Is it an accessibility test failure? Is the accessibility, okay, how is the level of severity? So is it a warning? Is it an error? Is it a huge error? Like, okay, you have links with no href. You have images with no alt text. Okay, you need to fix that. Again, you have color contrast that is not compliant with a AAA or not even AA. Okay, then we need to evaluate it. And if we decided to ignore it, either you delete the test, or either you make it pass the test. I mean, how can I say it? Like, you can reduce the severity, your tolerance to the test. So if you're looking for errors in this specific test, you're looking for warnings. So the error will go, or the other way around, the warning will go.
Okay, that's really helpful. So you're not letting your test suite fail to be green, indefinitely, because that's one thing that's important to us is that we trust the test suite. So
definitely, I mean, so making a test with expect through and passing through is just delete the test is Makes no sense.
Okay, thanks. I really appreciate that.
Good.
Anybody else? Do you have anything else you want to say, Adrian?
One thing is just we need to understand that the responsibility of web accessibility is not on the developers. It has to be in the whole team. So from product managers, product owners, UX designers, UI designers, developers, testers, everyone. It's not that the developers need to think of everything. And if it's not accessible, it's part of the developments or the developer's fault. No, this is something that if your product owner requests a new feature, and if the feature is a button who perform an action, then it has to be a button. And if it's a link who goes to a place, then it needs to be a link. Okay, button against link, we talk about a different day. But we have, so HTML provides us with the correct tools. We don't need to download any polyfill. We don't need to download any library. Everything is there to be used. So one is use what you have correctly. And again, it's responsibility of everyone. So to argue, do not fight if it's possible with your designer and say, no, I'm not going to delete the outline of our focus. Only, and argue it correctly, I will delete the outline only if we put something else. Or this button, I want a button that look like an icon and in small screens look, wait, let's see if it's possible. Because if it's not possible, let's look for a different solution that the UX, the user experience is not affected. So it's something that is easy, because it's really, really easy, because ARIA gives you all the opportunity you have. So you just need to do it. And again, involve everyone in the process. So if you could involve the whole team, better for your process. Because if you have an accessible product, then it's a better product. Not, again, the same as my last sentence, not for disabled people, for everyone.
Right. Those are great words. Well, enjoy your time in Colombia. I hope you
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the countryside along with the conference. And congratulations on your engagement. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on today. We really appreciate everyone who.
No, thank you for having me.